Hi guys, this is Vidas.
And Dusha.
Let's start episode 179 of Ask Vidas and Osha podcast. This question was sent by John. He writes, "Hello Vidas and Osha. About your last post, someone who is legally blind would, as Tony stated, not be able to read music notation and may have used the assistance of one of his friends or loved ones to write the message to you, unless he used some magnifying device in front of his monitor or used large font to send the message. You can get large magnifying screens from various blind institutes, but it wouldn't make reading music much easier, let alone playing at the same time. So a different approach may be needed, possibly a bit like blind organists like Louis Vierne and others, who would also have been legally blind or fully blind, and who may have mastered the art by sheer perseverance and help from others, I presume." So Osha, remember we talked about helping Tony. He wrote legally blind, but we didn't really understood what he meant.
Well, he put it in the quotation marks.
So
in Lithuania there is sort of, if you put something in the quotation mark, it means just an opposite. That's how our language works.
Right, so we understood that he could read music. He could see music, but he couldn't read the music. You see?
Yes.
That's how I understood.
So if, it would be like legally blind without quotations, it would mean that, you are blind or almost blind. But if it's in a quotation mark, it means just, an opposite. That you sort of, can see, but you are bad at reading music.
Exactly. So now that we know what Tony meant, right? And thanks to John who corrected us, now we can discuss a little bit situation for the blind people, right? What they could do, how to play the organ. Of course, one way would be to improvise. That's definitely the case for a lot of blind organists in France, I believe.
Yes.
Or the Netherlands too. They have a great tradition of improvisation. And then another option would be to get a very large font of your sheet music, enlarge them. If you can see something, at least remember, like our professor Leopoldas Degris, before the operation, he used to see very little, and he had enlarged a lot of his scores. I don't think that would work for Tony, because he is legally blind, so he cannot see anything.
Yes, and Degris, he actually put that the music rack would be just in front of his eyes. He was sort of the special device, that would make the music stand closer to his eyes.
And it also depends if you are blind from birth, or you I don't know, had an accident or illness, and gradually became lost sight.
Which, would mean, a different way how to approach music, because the one way is if you, learn how to play being blind, and another if you, learned in your early age how to read music. And only then, lost your sight.
But definitely Helmut Walcher, for example, would be a great example for this, right? He would ask his students to play an excerpt of maybe 2 measures of a polyphonic composition, but not all voiced together, but just one voice, single voice. And then he would repeat it several times, and then he would ask another voice, right, Osha?
Yes, and this is an idea that you learn single voice, and then you put voices together after learning each voice separately.
But then you have to have help all the time.
Yes.
which could be possible nowadays. You know how?
You could ask if somebody would record, like a piece
in separate voices?
in separate voices,
Exactly.
Yes. And then you could learn from the recording.
Even our students, for example, that would be our readers who are listening to us from all over the world, if they are practicing in single voice combinations slowly enough, they could record themselves and let's say and put the recording online. I bet some blind organist would even want to pay for that, right?
Yes.
As a practice aid.
That's true.
Exactly. What else? MIDI system could help too. Remember, you could put music in MIDI notation and then play it in various speeds, play it back, and the organist could play from just listening to the recording.
That's true.
What would you do if you suddenly lost your sight? Would you play from the sheet music, or you would improvise or something else?
I don't know. I don't thought about it.
I know what I would do. I would probably improvise. And since I'm improvising every day, it would just mean I would improvise more,
Well, then I would probably have to improvise too.
I had one experience of being blind for one day. Did you have this experience? No, I haven't told you.
For an entire day?
A little bit less. It was an experiment. I was in the summer camp with young people, and in the middle of the woods, basically. This camp was for a couple of weeks, I believe. Remember, in Kune. And one summer they had a few blind kids, and everyone else in the camp had an assignment to be blindfolded, right? To put a scarf on your eyes and to walk around without being able to see. So in order to feel a little bit what blind people feel all the time. So we walked around for maybe 30 minutes or so, just a little bit, It was really, really difficult not to bump into trees and things like that.
Well, I had sort of, experience, but not for such a long time, and because of a health condition, not because of some experiment. Because I have terrible headaches called migraine, and sometimes before that I sort of get very, very weird experience, and some of them are related to my eyes. And I had once I almost lost my vision, in the middle of the street, and it was very hard for me to find my way home.
Was it a scary experience?
Yes, it was a scary experience.
Because you didn't know how long it will last.
Yes, and this was the first time when it happened, so it scared me a lot. But somehow I reached, home, and maybe after 10 minutes being at home, I had this sudden headache, and then I just understood that it's related those, two things, losing vision and no headache. And when I had it actually this year at school, during playing dictation for my senior students. And it's a 3-part dictation, so it's sort of
difficult.
Quite difficult, yes, to play. And suddenly, I lost my vision too.
Did you have a headache at that time too?
Later on, yes, it comes later on. It doesn't come at the same time.
So you can predict
Yes.
What will happen next?
So when I just finished that class, right on time, I didn't want to scare my students, so I didn't tell anybody anything. And then I somehow managed to go to my colleague next door, and actually she took me to the teacher's green room where we have coffee machine. So I bought a coffee, strong coffee, and it helped a little bit, yes, for my vision. And when I had that horrible headache, but vision came back.
Yeah, it's scary.
I don't know what I would do if this would happen during my recital.
And driving.
Or driving. Well, if it would happen during driving, you would just
Stop. Is it a sudden or a gradual losing of sight?
Well, it's sudden, but it's not like you can not see anything. I mean, you see dark, for example, in your eyes. Sort of, you see all kinds of rainbow colors, and they keep flashing very fast. In front of your eyes,
right?
So you cannot see anything because of this, all these sparks and sparkling colors. It's hard to describe. I think you have to experience it in order to understand how it works.
I bet some people will write some comments for us afterwards because they might have something like that.
Because too. I had migraine all my life since I was probably 10 or 11 years old, but I never had this kind of stuff before.
Well, good news is that life always finds a way, right? And look what Beethoven did at the end of his life. Right? He lost his ability to hear, but he wrote music anyway.
Well, I think that losing, hearing would be easier problem for me comparing to, losing the vision.
Okay.
Because the
I'm typing now into Google blind painters. Let's see. And there are 10 amazing blind painters right away, the second hit. Or visually impaired artists, And look, they are really beautiful. And somehow you can see the colors in your mind, or combinations of the colors.
It's the same with Beethoven, except that he lost not his vision but his hearing. He could still hear music inside of him.
So please don't be too discouraged. I know it's not a regular situation. It's not like you will walk the street with optimism, all the time, because yes, it's frustrating and the situation is very difficult to cope. But if you have a dream which is big enough, you can always find a way.
Sure.
Sometimes people climb mountains without their legs, right?
Yes.
Sometimes people in wheelchairs who can only move their tongue, I believe, right? They're paralyzed from neck down. They can write books and inspire other people because they have a really sharp mind. Look what scientist Stephen Hawking does all the time, right? Look him up.
Sure. And that Bach got blind too at the end of his life. Now, scientists believe that it was because of diabetes.
Yeah.
So nobody is sure for, one's health. So just love yourself, and take it easy.
They say that a person has to have some level of security, physical and mental security, in order to be creative, in order to pursue their dreams, right? To have a secure house or home, to have food, right? Shelter, enough money to survive, right? And then they can be creative, and then they can play, and then they can express themselves, and then they can follow their passions, which is true in most of the cases, but not always, right, Osha? Because sometimes people can overcome those burdens and challenges despite them become successful in life and become inspirations for others while being in a wheelchair, while being blind, while being challenged in one way or another. Because what does it mean, challenged? It means that you cannot do something better than someone else, right? Something. If you are visually challenged, you cannot see as well as someone else can see, right? But in a sense, that's the same situation with every one of us, right? I cannot do everything as well as you can do, right? Remember Quentin Faulkner, our professor, he called himself with humor technically challenged, right? Although it's just probably his own expression, but yes, it's true. There are people who can play organ better than us, right? We could think like that too. I
Yes,
think
but
this,
not everybody is in the same position, so.
but I think it gives hope. This sort of mentality that you don't compare yourself to others, right? And try to make best of the situation.
It's true.
Thank you, guys. This was Vidas.
And Osha,
And remember, when you practice,
miracles happen.